is there anything to look at from a Texas Tech team, which is ranked in the top 10, is going to probably be in the college football playoff possibly? Is there anything you guys can look at as a program and say, okay, they're here, we know we're climbing there, we can maybe do some things that maybe we're not that far away from being.
Yeah, I think that everybody in the country kind of does that and say, okay, what are the models as we've gone through all the changes in college football? Is there, the one-offs are tough, because you say, okay, well, they did it this way. Okay, let's do it like that. Okay, well, what were the circumstances that allowed them to build a roster a certain way? Which, some people have more advantages than others in those things. And then you say, okay, well, despite those, perceived advantages or disadvantages where we stand, okay, how can we do it our own way? And ultimately look at it through the lens of both from a talent acquisition standpoint, evaluation. There's it's not the only team in the country that spent money on good players. Part of it is doing something with them, and then also being right, as opposed to being wrong. And so, making sure it's a good reminder from an evaluation standpoint, making sure you're not just throwing money at the thing, but making sure you're getting the right type of guys and those things. And then build that too. You look at it through the lens, okay, from a coaching standpoint, are they better coaches than us? And then you say, okay, what can we do? That's what you do control. And say, okay, well, how do we coach our guys better? Regardless of talent, why did Texas Tech's coaching staff get their players to play harder than the UCF coaches? And they flat did. And so that's an embarrassing thing to admit, but I got to own that. And so we got to be better.
Coach, I mean, you mentioned the effort of this zero positives to take away from this one. But given all the injuries that you guys had, how hard is it to kind of evaluate that game, knowing the injuries and some guys maybe getting back?
Yeah, I think I should circle back to the effort piece. Again, if we get maximum effort and fought our tails off, then I probably would sing a different song. There's some guys who are banged up that played, and we appreciate the fact that they did, and they weren't going to miss that game. And so I don't want to dismiss that by any stretch of the imagination. And also, not firing bullets at these guys either, but as a coaching staff, we got to get them to do it. We got iPads on the sideline, and we're looking at this thing in real time and saying, we need to get going here, boys. All right, they made a play. They made a sequence of plays. And we're not immune to an opponent doing that, regardless of talent level. And we couldn't right the ship, and we just didn't get that done. And so, no, you evaluate what the film is. You just do. And because otherwise it's too easy to dismiss the things you don't like, and then just move on. But ultimately, and we're kind of referencing that, I got a 9-game study of guys fighting their tails off. And so that's the thing is probably the only reason we can sleep at night as coaches, is I had a 9-game study, and not all perfect by no stretch of the imagination. We haven't played enough winning football, but they played. And we've come in on Sundays, and I told the guys this, I come in on Sunday, man, I'm proud of you guys. As a group with a team, and we haven't had the success that we've wanted and the success that I believe we'll have. But it's been a group that have enjoyed coaching, enjoyed being in the fight with on Saturdays, pick the helmet up next series, and they just go, man. And it's been cool to be around. And that's them. You'd like to take credit as a coach, but that's them. And I got a 1-game study. We didn't do those things. And so we got to lick our wounds and move on.
You're facing a team that's looking at that tough season. There's a certain danger in that. What is the preparation of that? What do you see?
Yeah, I think you see a group that has battled. I give them a lot of credit, give that coaching staff a lot of credit. It went sideways early on them, but you see a group that hasn't quit. They've managed to be in ball games, most specifically this last weekend. That's players and coaches alike. It's like you could say it's easy to not do some of those things and punt on the season and move on, and for coaches and players, and they haven't done that. And I have a great respect for that. And I think from as you evaluate things, on the same note is saying, okay, why would they have any level of motivation that doesn't match what our level. We've had a tough season too, and we got to make sure that we get our guys playing at that type of fight and level against again an opponent that thinks they can right the ship against us.
Coach, turnovers ended up playing quite a role in Oklahoma State's last game. Penn State getting 5-0, beating them by a score. I know you preach turnovers all season, but when you look at what Oklahoma State has done offensively, how big they're not big.
Yeah, they're huge. They're huge, and we talked about road games last week, and look, I think we got one on the road all season. You're sitting there, you just can't take weekends off, when it comes to those things. I know we're at home this week, but no, it's the number one stat, man. You look at that thing and it's wins and losses, and you can circle back to that damn near every weekend, both in college and in professional football. Been very disappointed with our ability to do those things. We've had some opportunities, some balls in our hands and all that stuff, and you can chalk it up to just didn't happen or bad luck or something like that, and we just don't do that. We got to find a way to create it. Close doesn't get it done, and so it will be a telltale this weekend, and I'll come up here every week and I'll say takeaways again. And when we get them, we got a great chance to win a football game. It's not guaranteed, but you percentage-wise, it completely tilts in your favor. And when you don't, you got to play damn near perfect. And so, yeah, they're a good example a week ago, and they're just what that takeaway count can mean.
Coach, you know that Coach Jordan Johnson was on that offensive staff at Oklahoma State last season, and I saw him in passing the other day. He said, "I know these guys pretty well." Has there been any conversations with the defensive staff at UCF about what you would expect from?
Yeah, not a lot, just simply because they've had so much change this year, and as you're going through their season, looking at they've had to change some things up because of some injuries on offense and stuff like that. And, so maybe in other years it'd probably be more of an impact, but just with again all the change, it's been he does a great job here, but and he would give us any secret he had, but just not much, just because of the again the changes.
Malachi Lawrence and Nigel Lee went down with injuries the previous week, and I know it was questionable whether they were going to come back and play, but they wanted to. They got it out and played. I know it's important to those guys, especially for Malachi. Approaching the end of his career, he's been here his entire career. Just talk about the good of those guys, especially Malachi, who's been here for 5 years. That's something you don't see very often.
No, and that's exactly right. And then there's whatever injury reports are questionable. I mean, that's very real questionable. Like we're not sure type of deal. And so you're absolutely right for guys to say, no, I'm playing when maybe there's some reasons not to, and continue to play over the course of the game when there's probably a lot of reasons not to. Those guys are dudes now, man. We walk into a place and we need more of them, but guys that they battle, they've been good leaders for the group. That's a good visual, I think, for the entire football team. And so, no, been excited to have our time with them. Coach Doss does a tremendous job with them, and we expect to have a real good game this Saturday.
Scott mentioned earlier this week that this is a very important game. We talked about being the senior day and honoring the seniors. How important is that to give these guys one last chance? You may have only been here for 10 months with them, but to have a chance for these guys to get out there and be honored in front of them.
Yeah, I think you've asked a lot of them over the 10, 11 months you've had them. A lot of them. I mean, the amount of time you spend with these guys and all the change that takes place, and you're trying to not convince them, but you say, okay, these things are gonna work, man, and you're gonna reap the benefits of this. And on a season where the win-loss total goes the other way, you want them to have an experience that is positive. They put in the work. They've asked, they've done everything we've asked of them, and will continue to do. And like I said, I believe those guys will have their best game this weekend. But you just want to reap the benefits of the things that we ask them to do. And it's not just 1 year. I mean, that's the one we see, but just the cumulative amount of years, all the things that these guys are asked to do, and what they go through over the course of a college career, especially when you're talking about coaching changes and everything else. It's a lot, and it's a professional sport now, and so they're expected to grin and bear it through, but they're people too, and so I just like to see them reap some of the benefits of it.
Coach, we spoke to Miles yesterday. He said now it's a 2-game season. What are kind of the optics for the defense and the entire team knowing that going into this it's a must-win one for?
Yeah, I think that's just it. I think you have 12 scheduled games, and you can evaluate it after 10, and on either side of this thing. There'll be someday around here we'll be 8-2 right now. We'll be talking about the last 2 games, and it's going to be a must-win at that moment also. And so we signed up for this, and when things don't go your way, if you take the childish approach, the immature approach, and then somehow you deflect from that and say, well, if it doesn't go my way, it doesn't matter. And it does matter. It always matters. We talked about this in this room. Even sometimes you don't get the win, but the fight always matters. And so, finishing a certain way, and trying to right the ship and trying to put yourself in position to win a ball game on Saturday. That's the only one we got right now. That's what you can control. And whatever it is, 12, 13 days from now, we can't control any of it. It's also, we're in the day and age where the video is the video and everybody needs good video. And coaches and players alike, because it's like I said, it's a professional sport from that standpoint. We're all in a daily negotiation for jobs, right? And so, yeah, the last two games always matter.
And to kind of follow up on that, this season has kind of been the defense has had an outstanding season, keeping the offense in a lot of games so they get points on the board. You guys almost feel like another sense of urgency to kind of give one last push towards the final two games.
Yeah, we got to play winning football defensively, and there's some really good snaps and moments, and I appreciate you saying that, but we haven't played enough winning football defensively. And I'll say it again, like you just can't be in your silo and say, well, this is fine because we did X, Y, and Z, and we throw our hands up and we did enough this week. Well, guess what? Last week we didn't, right? And ultimately, what the scoreboard is one side has to score 1 point than the other, and whatever they score, we got to hold them to one less. And like I may mention this, we chose this life, man. As defenses, like we just don't get to do the consolation prize. It just is what it is. But no, again, I'm not going to ignore the first 9 games. The guys battle. That is a critical piece to this thing, and we got to battle this weekend.
In light of changes to the game, transfer portal, et cetera, how does senior day feel different? Does it?
No, it does, and it's unfortunate. I mean, if you talk about the positives of college football, and there are, and there's certainly, as you've gone through changes, it's a difficult time to ask coaches. Anything you say as a coach sounds like an excuse and that you're complaining. But I'll say it anyway, there's so much change. And at some point it will become the norm, and our rules change every 6 months, and you're trying to navigate all this stuff. And you're still talking to a group of, at some point we won't know anything different, but you're still talking to a group of coaches by and large at this level of football that got into coaching with the idea that you were going to recruit 18-year-old guys and you were going to develop them. There was something about you that wanted to do those things. Now, included in that, you want to win football games, right? So it's not all pie in the sky, like, just brotherly love all the time. But on the same token, there was something about you that appreciated that. There's something about the text messages that you received from guys that you coached for 3 years or 4 years, and the shared experience that you had over the course of time. And the reality is that that is completely wiped out. And so it's not kind of different, it's completely different. And it's frustrating to kind of be a part of sometimes. And it's one day. I mean, it's senior day. Of all the things in college football, the one thing that probably it's not appropriate to get too emotional about, the senior day is not the same way it used to be. There's other things that are probably bigger issues. But no, it is different. Now, the flip side is for a senior, a guy that very quickly doesn't get to put the pads on. Guys that have played this sport understand what it's like to not be able to do that anymore. So you still recognize that. Not everybody gets to play past the season that they're in. And so certainly from a respect standpoint, you respect those guys that they put so much in over the course of time. Maybe at different schools.
How vivid are your memories of your season?
I vivid memories of, I'm a Division III guy, and so we played playoffs and stuff like that. So you kind of didn't know when it was going to be. But I think the recognition, again, probably easier for Division III guys. You knew your days were numbered, right? But just that you identify as a football player for a long stretch of time, and whether basketball, football, or whatever, and then you wake up one day you're not that anymore. There's just a reality of that for guys. And so again, any guy that's played the sport or played sports in general, it's not just football, but you can't help but have an appreciation for what those guys have put in and recognize the fact that it's coming to an end.
Coach, what is it like? It's the UC game that ended up being what they could take it like but standpoint, Braden, Jaden, Malachi,
Yeah.
So what has it been like contending with that since then and now coming into this last one?
Yeah, you got to practice a little bit different. You got to be smart. You got to get the guys to Saturday while still getting the appropriate rest from a preparation standpoint. As experienced as some of those guys are, preparation still matters. If it didn't, we wouldn't practice. So you can't just simply say, well, we'll just put them on the shelf and then get them going on Saturday. So you have to adjust, and you got to be smart. And sometimes, depending on the injury, it's completely contact related, and other times it may be a soft tissue thing. You just got to make sure that you kind of control how hard they go and some of those things. But there's also, say for instance they can't go, well, there's other guys you got to prepare to put in the game. And so you got to make sure from a rep count standpoint they're getting that amount of work. And so no, that's a challenge, and it's not unique to us, but that has posed a challenge over the last couple of weeks.
It's also on how there were 0 positives from that game, but on the stat sheet, DeMar Peterson kind of stepped up. Going into this week against Oklahoma State, what can they expect to see?
Specific to Damari, yeah, no, Damari is one of those guys that has played damn near every single snap for us defensively, and in fact, I reminded him of that today. And there's got to be a chest out and shoulders back type of approach that he needs and has earned the right to have. And he's also one of those guys that there's more plays for him to make. As good as 12 was, man, I bet you I could find 3 more for him. And and if he was honest, I think he would say the same. And I don't want to minimize. I'm sure glad he made the 12 he did. But he's one of those guys that again I give credit to. That from a depth standpoint, Phil played every snap. Braden Marshall, until he got injured, had played every snap this season. Damari, every other than in games where we're able to sub type of deal at the end of it. So no, give him a lot of credit. No, I expect him to look like a guy that's started 10 football games. It's a junior in college. And run the show back there a little bit. And so no, I'd like to see that this week. All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you, Coach.
Any questions? Coach, Coach Frost after the game the other day in Lubbock said he was obviously disappointed result, but he couldn't wait to get back on the field and get ready for the next one. So what kind of response have you seen from the guys last night in today's practice?
Yeah, I think what you want to see in regards to wanting to get better. Like Coach Frost mentioned, excited to get back on the field. We know we got work to do, and that's every day, and we're continuing to battle. So, yeah, good to get real first padded practice under our belt. So, we're on the next. All focus is on Oklahoma State right now, but it's good to be back on the grass.
Scott talked about this is going to be a fit with the quarterback, with Taven and Dobby being the guys you go forward with over the next couple of games. Does that change how you do anything in practice? Does it change some of your game planning because of the fact that the room is a little fit?
Yeah, for sure it does. Most of them are subtle, but different plays for different guys, making sure both guys are getting the rep right and left. And, it's been like that all year. I mean, it's like that for every team. I shouldn't say just us specifically. Just making sure we're ready to go and knowing that we can throw Davi in and he's got some experience under his belt, which is a good thing. So just trying to balance the strengths and weaknesses out of both guys and continue to practice, and we know we're rolling with those two.
Coach, obviously you want to get one of the top teams in the country, but what did you hope to see more from the offense?
Yeah, it's a great question. I would have liked to see in the critical moments, and we're talking third downs, you'd like to see just a little bit more precision and execution. And we've seen that in practice, which that's the thing that we're preaching and we show video. I mean, it's the same look from 3 weeks ago and we executed this. So I don't know if the moment was too big for some or if it was a situation where we just didn't play our best. So, big picture, just you have to execute no matter the circumstances, doesn't matter who you're playing. And so it's just a lot of the same stuff that we got to keep getting better at. And like I've always said, those are the things you have to continue to work on in practice. And eventually, the dam will break. So we just got to keep chucking away at it.
Taven 27 of 33, 2 passes more than 20 yards. How would you describe the state of the deep passing?
Yeah, not where we want it to be. Some of that's timing. Some of that is fresh legs at this point in the season, depth. You add all those things up, and you're exactly right. To be explosive, you have to get some balls over the top. And we tried a couple. When you're playing against a pass rush like Texas Tech provides, you're going to be in situations where you do have to get the ball out quick. So we knew that we had to hit on the minimum amount of shots that we did have in the game, and we missed narrowly on a couple. Where we're at right now going into this week, those are things that we're obviously paying attention to and trying to make sure that the protection's set. We got the right guy for that spot, make sure that guy's legs are fresh, and the communication of those things. And, it's easy to get that in practice because you script it. You get in a game, you have to be able to adjust and make those things work. Not where we want it to be. That's definitely a point of emphasis because to be the explosive offense we want to be in the run game, you can back the safeties up if you're more effective in the deep passing game.
Fans focus on the quarterback, but may not understand what the wide receivers do. What do you need to see from wide receivers?
Yeah, Big one, and this is a small detail that matters. When we look back for the football, we got to continue to run full speed. It's the classic thing. You come from high school and you're used to seeing every rotation of the ball when it leaves the quarterback's hands because you're such a better athlete compared to the competition you're playing against. So I think what we have is some younger guys that are adapting and adjusting to the speed of college football, and we've had it at times. So it's not like we don't know how to do that. It's just being consistent with those things and tracking the ball in flight. Um, Precision and route running and detail. But it's not just the receivers. It's not just the quarterback. It's not just the protection. It's all those things combined. And where we're at in the season right now, when it seems like when we play on the road, we don't have the precision and detail that we need. And then sometimes at home, it all looks like it's supposed to look. So Coach Frost pulled some tape up and showed the guys doing it in spots. In the West Virginia game and going back to North Carolina game, going back to the first game of the year, and it's there, and the guys can do it. And we have full trust and faith that the guys that we got can make those plays. The quarterbacks we got can make those throws. The offensive linemen that we have can protect. And most part, guys are doing it, and you need all 11 at the same time to execute against a defense like the one we just played against.
Coach, we got to see AG out there for a little bit, and that's the game right there. What did you get a chance to see out of him with the increase in playing time, and how much did you learn?
Yeah, proud of AG coming in. He's a smart kid, and he executed, which is cool to see. So, if anything, that's just a little bit more trust and faith in him. We already had trust and faith. It's just where he was in the depth and next man up mentality. Not surprised that he had some success when he got in the game.
Coach Grinch just got done telling us bluntly that was an embarrassing loss, and then on the sidelines, he's thinking maybe we're the Texas Tech coaches doing better than the coaches at UCF. When you're on the sideline, what's your thought process like?
Yeah, I'm in the box, so I get to see probably even a little bit more. But same sentiment. One, that team flew around, and listen, man, I really only pay attention to the offense we're on the field. I got more stuff to do, so I'm not paying attention to what our defense is doing or what our special team is doing. That's just my focus is on the 11 guys we have on the field on offense. So strictly from the defensive standpoint from Texas Tech, that's a team that swarms. Yeah, they got some really good players across the board. They're very talented, but they play together. You can tell that there was an energy there. They fed off each other. They celebrated together. And I think that's one thing that we need to continue to build as we build this team. And we're excited about where we're going. Like Coach Frost mentioned, he was excited to get his feet back on the grass for practice and keep working. But that's what it needs to look like. Guys excited for each other. Guys excited to make plays. Guys excited to be there. Be the most excited team to play. We saw that coming from Texas Tech. Now, the next layer to that is when you have that level of intention, you have that level of excitement, the details and the fundamentals show up and you have a little bit more belief. Not to go Ted Lasso on you guys, but that's what it seemed like they had on defense. And we've had it in spots. We need to be more consistent with that. At this point in the season, it is what it is. This is a team trying to find its way. And I have full faith that we're going to get things done in practice tomorrow and the next day, and we're going to get ready to go and get after it on Saturday.
One of the bright spots on offense is Dylan Wade. He's been got through an injury the entire season. I mean, we can see he's not 100%. He went up for the touchdown and came back down that shoulder. I know he was hurt. Can you just talk about what Dylan has been able to provide you guys this year through it all?
Yeah, I mean he's proven to his teammates and the coaching staff that he's a willing blocker and he's a guy that can make plays on the football. And obviously there's a lot of growth potential there too. And talk to D Wade about that every day. But it's good to have a playmaker like that and someone that's willing to put his body on the line like he did on that play. So I'm really glad we have him. We're just going to keep working on getting him better.
Saturday's senior day, you got a lot of guys who are going to celebrate their final time here playing up at home. Guys like Paul Rudolph. What is a guy like Paul who's been around for 5 years? What does he mean kind of to this program as you guys look to kind of?
Yeah, and to your point, I mean, Paul's the outlier in 2025 college football. So really proud of him and the work that he's put forward from the time before I even knew him. And, he represents what it means to be a Knight. He represents what it means to be a loyal student athlete. And I think it's a really cool story. Excited for him. Going to give my best effort like every week. A little maybe extra for him because of guys like that. And, other seniors like Miles, who did transfer here but has been around for a few years. Nixon, who's only been here for 1 year. Like, it means a lot because this is your last home football game. And so I think the guys will rally around that and pour everything they got into the game. That's what my hope is, and I get the feeling that that's what's going to happen.
I kind of want to follow up on Miles. Coach Frost gave him pretty good ratings. He said, which had 40 of him on the team. I mean, what has Miles meant for this offense, especially as a senior, not knowing that he's going to be a part of the pieces, but trying to be a part of that from game to game?
Yeah, I mean, Miles' football player, period. And that's what he is to the core, and all the good things that come with it. He's a competitor. He's got high energy. He brings the juice. And, not having him last week, even though he was on the sideline, that took away from a little bit of the identity of our offense. So having him back this week and getting him rolling and being out there for senior night, I think that's a special deal.
With all the changes in college football, how does senior day feel different?
Yeah, you just got to lean into the guys like Paul. The guys that mean a lot to this place, and it's different because, sure, there's some guys that have only been here for 1 year, and this is going to be their last year, but every year is its own thing, and that's always been true. So we're going to pour into these seniors because this is their last college football game.
How vivid are your memories of your senior day?
To be honest, not that vivid. It's so funny when you think about, like, as a player, it's the random things that I can't even tell you if that was my freshman year or my junior year, and it's those things that you remember, not necessarily the last game or the last play, the wins and the losses. But I think it's special because it's a celebration of all those things when we go out there on Saturday.
Coach, with a couple of injuries there, you have line have you with that over the past couple of weeks, and what does it look like now that they have to with their season?
You're saying what does it look like for the offensive line with some of the
With senior day coming out with the injuries and what their status is regardless of
Yeah. Okay. I get what you're asking. I think it really kind of goes into, like, when you ask me, like, how vivid is your memory of senior day and your last game? Like, not that vivid. It's a celebration of the time spent with each other, the time spent in this program, and then just the rite of passage of being a college football player. So I think there's going to be some emotions. I think guys are going to play hard. I think it's going to be a special moment. But as soon as that's over, all the pregame hoopla, like, it's time to play football and we got to go. And I think that the guys are going to be excited and ramped up to play this game.
The game this weekend, Oklahoma State, also a struggling team in the Big 12. But I think, as I like to say, an opponent's an opponent every week. There's no difference. But going into this game on Saturday, what are some key things that you're focused on after looking at game from Oklahoma State?
Yeah, first of all, everyone's got to pull the tape up and watch this defense play against Kansas State last week. It looks like almost like a different team coming off their bye week, different scheme, doing a lot of different things, playing as fast as they played all year. By far and away, if you pull up the tape, that's the best this team has played, and they played together. So that's the first thing. So our guys understand that challenge. This is going to be a good football team that's coming out to play. I understand the record. I understand all these things, but this is a Big 12 football team that's playing their best football on defense right now. What we've seen on tape, yeah, certainly going to be some things that we're going to try and attack each week. We're always going to try and find a way to put our guys in advantage, but this is a good football team coming in. I think our guys are excited for the challenge and get to play an opportunity senior night at home. Yeah, it'll be a cool atmosphere, and it's going to be a good challenge for us.
You were shorthanded on the offensive line this past week. How do you think that group adjusted? Cam Kinney at center, Owen Spalding, more Connor Meadows. How do you think that group did? What's the expectation going into this?
Yeah, proud of the guys that came in and played different roles that they hadn't been in for the season, but definitely hurts you when you lose some continuity at key spots, and when you're playing with a different center, the calls come in a little bit differently, the communication levels a little bit differently, so we'll give those guys some grace, but I think what we understand now is it really doesn't matter who's out there, it's next man up, so moving forward into this next week, if we got moving pieces at different positions and not just offensive line, it's always going to be that way. We had some guys that were dinged up last week, a little bit fresher this week. We got some guys that are going to be dinged up this week. And that's just going to mean that might be a little bit different continuity of who's getting the reps with who as we get the final IR, the injury report here at the end of the week. We're still working through those things. But proud of the guys for coming in and filling a role, but it's always going to be next up mentality, and we have to be able to execute no matter the circumstance. And certainly an area we could have been better.
Last week you went into some detail about how you were addressing practice to be able to come to
Yeah.
So what did you see against that?
Yeah, we still had a handful, which is too many. Times you have one penalty, it's too many. But in regards to the crowd noise and getting in and out of the huddle, we had a couple issues. But the big ones that hurt us in Baylor, we were able to solve through how we practice that week, and that's the communication from the headset to the quarterback, getting the play out. So that was better. But man, we got to continue to work on those things with A younger football team with it being first year, it's not where you want it to be, but I understand like these things take time, and we seem to be a little bit better with some of these things at home. So we're going to continue to push the buttons. We're hitting the right buttons in practice, but it wasn't as good as I'd like it to be. But you can certainly see the progress being made.
Coach Glenn Thomas has been a jack of all trades, whether the return game, passing game, or even the rushing game. Now, how do you kind of plan to utilize these kind of team matches, knowing that he's everyone on the field and it can only take so much?
You can't play every position at once, and you can't play every play. 70 snaps would be a lot for a guy. We're just happy that we have him because he's a useful weapon in this offense, and we're going to continue to try and find creative ways to use him. A lot of times that's going to be to his skill strengths. The other thing is going to be to what the defense has given us, and we're always going to try and find edge with that.
Has he taken pride in kind of being wherever the offense is?
Well, does he take pride in that? Yeah, I think so. I've never had like a pointed conversation about it with him. It's just kind of what's understood doesn't need to be explained, and I think he's always open for that role.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
That's